Spoleto is a small town in Italy. It's important for two reasons. Firstly, there's a performing arts festival, a very well organised and famous performing arts festival that's held there every 2 years. And secondly, there are a lot of well-preserved ruins like these ancient walls that we're looking at now. There is a fortress, I guess you'd call it a fortress town, built above the main city of Spoleto. And to help tourists get to that town, there's a series of escalators. And they are there under those grey roofs that you see. And here we are, we're about to get on the first of the escalators. Spoleto played a part in many wars that have occurred over the last 2,500 years, and it's important on that account. It lies at the mouth of a broad valley, and in the days of the Roman Empire, it lay on a trade route. Now, the tourists are well catered for. There's a map showing the layout of the fortress town. Spoleto existed before the Roman Empire. The Umbrian tribes who inhabited the region 2,500 years ago built stone walls, which, the remains of those walls can still be seen in the countryside today. But it's best known for its Roman ruins and the Roman art, particularly the art that's portrayed in the museum. Now, the Performing Arts Festival, it's been going for some decades. It's become world famous. So as we go up on the series of escalators, there are many beautifully designed displays portraying festivals which have been held and festivals which are going to be held. Now, that man pictured there on the left, he is the guy who first started that festival. Luckily for tourists like me, I can only speak English. There are a lot of signs in English as well as in Italian. Not all signs are translated, but certainly a lot of signs are available in English. Now, here we are at a lower level in the fortress. There's a ring road around the fortress. We can hear cicadas in the background. In Australia we call them cicadas. Here in Italy they're called cicadas. I'm holding the camera, I'm wondering which way I should go. Should I go left around the ring road, or should I turn right? Doesn't really matter. Being a ring road, obviously it gets you to the same place. Now, here's a modern piece of artwork. Of course, a lot of artwork, both ancient and modern, is based around religious stories. Here we've got the birth of Christ. Everywhere there are little maps saying you are here. Now, the hilltop town has access to vehicles, so fortunately or unfortunately, you share the town with vehicles, but as a tourist, they're not a significant problem, not at all. Art has always been important to the Italians from the Roman days. Like some other countries, art is a part of everyday life here in Italy. Now that is the sound of the cicadas, and as in Australia it can be quite loud. There we are, looking down on the city of Spoleto that lies below the fortress town. As an Australian, I love the sense of harmony that these cities have, from similar style. Everything is built in similar colours, similar styles, similar building materials. You definitely do not get that in Australia. Australian cities and towns do not have that sense of harmony. Now, the ancient fortress town was fed by an aqueduct. Goodness knows how many slaves died building that aqueduct. It's huge, it's beautifully made, and it diverted a stream into the town so that the town always had water. Roofs here, look, roofs are very different from Australia. You don't see this roof method used in Australia much. Look how heavy it is. There are layers of these semicircular tiles over an impermeable membrane. We can also look down on the main traffic highway that goes into the city of Spoleto. It's interesting to note that unlike Australia, there's very few small trucks. The trucks here are all large trucks. And just behind the hilltop town we've got more residential areas. Again, there's a wonderful sense of harmony and beauty there. Now this is the ring road again. It's holiday time, that's why there are quite a few tourists. This wall is very impressive. Look at the size of the stones. Again, it was made a couple of thousand years ago. Again, a lot of slaves would have died, I guess, making this wall. But the craftsmanship is amazing, and the size of some of those fortress stones, some of those foundation stones. Look at this; they're huge. Many tons in a stone like that. The fortress is beautifully preserved. Obviously in 2,000 years it's had a lot of modern buildings erected there, but they lie in harmony with the ancient old buildings. It's a very pretty town. I highly recommend visiting Spoleto and taking the escalators to the hilltop fortress. There's wonderful craftsmanship there. In the old days, the fortresses had protection. There were small slots for archers to fire their arrows through. In fact, these slots are so small, I really don't know how you'd aim properly. Even though it's holiday time, and there are many families here with children, the density of tourists is certainly not a problem. Look at that wall, it's fantastic. Australia has nothing like these ancient buildings. Look, this is a very old pathway, but the tiling, that pattern of tiling is still used today, using tiles that are virtually the same length, same width. That wall's been repaired, obviously. Here we are looking down on the city of Spoleto. Very pretty city surrounded by vegetation. Here's the huge courtyard within the fortress. Now you do have to pay to get into the museum, and and it's not expensive. I paid, of course, and I'm very glad I did. Look at this ancient latch, I think on a prison door. And this is a little window that lets you look into the prison cell. Look how thick that door is. Lockable. Now once you get into the museum, there's heaps of ancient art. Some of it's art that was here and it's simply been restored in place. Some of it's artistic pieces that have been brought in from elsewhere. I grew up in a house with wallpaper, and of course the ancient art fulfilled the same sort of function that wallpaper does, but much better. The ancient art would have been found in the homes of rich citizens rich enough to pay highly skilled artists and craftsmen to create the paintings, and because it wasn't just paintings. Now there's a painting of the aqueduct. It wasn't just paintings; it was mosaics as well. Now here's an ancient sarcophagus. It's pretty heavy. With the passing of time, the sarcophagus tended to get more elaborate, more beautifully decorated. On display there's also ancient utensils dating back 1,000 years, or nearly 2,000 years. Lamps, oil lamps. These exhibits have been beautifully presented. This is a world-class, it's a small but world-class museum. Umbria. Here we've got mosaics. The areas that have been protected are beautifully preserved. I imagine they would have been created by great artists assisted by craftsmen. And look at the detail there. We're very lucky that examples of this ancient art have been preserved and displayed. Look how thick the walls are, and there on the inside of the walls we still have the remains of the original artwork that once decorated this room. Amazing. As the sarcophagus got more ornate, they began to tell stories. Usually religious stories, religious personnel, religious characters, I should say. Look at the fine detail in that artwork. Here we're looking at ordinary day-to-day ornaments. Necklace, an armband. These are small pieces of art that have been found in sarcophagi with people who've died and been buried. Art is often very transient, so you're lucky that some pieces of art have been preserved even though they were made so long ago. That would be a horse's bridle, I imagine, handmade out of iron. The term steel refers to iron that has other elements in it, and I'm not sure how much steel was used in those days. Also, of course, ancient materials were reused. The crumbled foundations of ancient houses and churches, buildings, temples were reused by later civilizations. Now this, as you just read, this is the story of an execution that goes wrong. Not unfortunately, he still gets killed. So he he has fire. His executioners try and torture him with fire, but the fire goes out. They try and get dogs to savage him, but the dogs cower in front of him. Eventually he's tied to a tree and executed, and of course the angels are there. And this guy is now a saint. We're looking at this story again because it's a beautiful piece of art. Look at the work that's gone into carving those figures. The angels are there looking over the execution. That's why the dogs are cowering. That's why the fire that was used to torture him goes out. Unfortunately, the angels can't save him, but then he's going to heaven anyway, I guess. We've moved on to wall art. Again, a lot of it beautifully preserved. This is an ancient toilet. Now my understanding is that the excreta simply slid through a passageway to the outside of the fortress walls. So there's the hole. So that was your toilet, and what left the toilet went down outside, on the outside of the wall. And that's it. That's the end of our visit to the hill town, the hill fortress of Spoleto. So we're heading back through the displays of performing art. Back to the escalators that will take us back to the lower city Now that's the guy who, uh, an Italian, born in Italy but grew up in America, and he saw the opportunity to create a festival that would give young Italians, young American artists, the opportunity to showcase their work.